All right, guys, it is, what day is it? It is Wednesday. Oh, man. And you know what? I got to pee. Like, I've sat here for the last hour on the phone and doing pre show stuff, and I forgot to go pee. So, yeah, I said it. I said it. The biology is working, man. Thank God for the pipes and the chemistry. Now, TMI, TMI, TMI. Blow it up in the chat. TMI. I got to pee. The problem with being at my age, it's hard to start and it's hard to stop. Oh, but at least it's working. I hope you guys are having a good one. Welcome to the Chad Prather Show. If you're wondering, if you happen to be watching this over on Graham Allen's Rumble, I think most of the chat is happening on the Chad Prather Rumble. It is confusing. I sort of apologize for all of that. There are kinks in the armor, baby, and we're trying to figure it out. I want to talk about the Tardiacs there. The Tardiac arrest is what I'm calling it. Yes, that is a Tardiac arrest. They are melting down. The snowflakes are melting faster than the ice here in South Texas in the sunshine. And trust me, it is dripping off of my house right now. These snowflake tears, they are delicious, and I'm here to lap them up. We had so much fun making fun of them yesterday. I decided we just need to do it today, but I do want to make a serious point today. Believe it or not, I do want to make a serious point. These people are basically now involving the, quote, Christian faith. And I use that term loosely because they're not really truly using the Orthodox Christian faith, but they're using it to push their really bad agendas on us. And I want to get to some of the responses of that because I know you've heard the narrative over and over again in this little video clip of what that so-called bishop at the National Cathedral had to say. You've heard it, but I want to respond even more to this and throw a few warnings out there. So you guys are here. Thank you for joining the chat. And I do appreciate you guys threw the TMIs in there. A lot of you probably had to go pee too. So here we are. Before I get into anything else, you know what? I want to welcome back to the show producer Royce. Where you at, buddy? There he is. There he is.
I'm back, baby.
You're back from D.C. The beard is coming in. What is the beard status, Royce? I mean, is your wife, she's still okay with it?
Oh no, she likes it. She said this to me. She asked me, she'll deny it. She'll be like, I didn't make you shave it. But she asked me, she's like, I miss your face. Okay, and when your wife says that to you,
good looking little face.
You want to make her happy. So I shaved the beard and she was happy with it. And then, she told me, she's like, it's like a few days later. You can't undo it, right? She's like, you know what? I really liked the beard. She's like, without a beard, it feels like we're dating. And when you have the beard, it feels like we're married. I said, well, give it time. It'll come back. And sure enough, it's probably 50% of where it was. Yeah. Still a little patchy boy beard, but it's coming back.
Little Royce Jonas brother. I like that.
That's right. Yeah.
Did you have a good trip to DC? Was it a good experience for you guys?
Yeah, DC is nice. Every time that I've been to DC in the past, which was during the Joe Biden administration, riddled with crime and homelessness everywhere. All those parks out in front of the White House were just filled with homeless tents and camps and all this stuff, and it was pretty disgusting. But this time I went in the winter, and the homeless were away because it was too cold, and it was beautiful. It really was. Washington, D.C. is such a historic place, looking at all the statues and the monuments and seeing the different places. And as we were walking around the city, I told Gianna, I said, you know what, there's something, that feels good about walking around the city that runs the world. It doesn't just, yes, it runs America, but America runs the world. And this is where it all happens in D.C. So it was cold, though. At one point, it was like 10 degrees, and we were freezing outside. From Florida, we're getting some snow in Florida now, not where I'm at, but we're not used to that kind of cold. So, toes were falling off, fingers were frozen solid, but we made it through it. We made it back alive, but it is a beautiful place in the winter.
Well, it's a beautiful city. It really is, in spite of the nonsense that's there. I've always had a good time in D.C. It's a little bit surreal when you're there because you see all these historic places that you've only seen pictures of, right? I mean, I've been there since I was a kid, but it's still surreal that, yes, these things really do exist and the history that's there. And that's one of the institutions that I don't want us to lose, man. I want us to maintain that element of history that so much revisionist stuff has kind of wiped out. So
It's so sad when you hear like all the statues that were torn down by
Yeah.
BLM and all this stuff, ruining the streets, painting the streets. It is sad, but I will say before you continue, while we were there, we were there during the inauguration, and the Trump support throughout that city. Obviously, it's because 300,000 people flew in for this inauguration event, but it was Trump hats everywhere you look, Trump MAGA sweaters, Trump vans, right? Parades going on, music everywhere. It was such a good, it felt like we were back.
Yeah.
It literally did. I know we've been saying that for years. We're back. We're so back. But being in that city during that time with all those Trump supporters and everything that was happening, it really did feel like we were back.
It's a
was
good
fun.
feeling. It is a good feeling. I've sensed it. I missed the parties that were going on, the galas and stuff. Because I was supposed to still be up there. I was supposed to be up there for the Life and Death Con tomorrow. Unfortunately, because of everything we're doing with Dear America, everything was sort of in limbo, so I didn't get up there for that. Sarah Gonzalez was going to be my +1 at the March for Life and the White Rose Society Gala. She was going to be my date. Her husband approved of it, and we were like, you know what? We just have so much going on. We're not going to go. So I had a little FOMO. All of my friends were there. We were invited to the ball, and my mom was like, well, how are you going to be able to go to the inaugural? And I was like, Mom, I know people. At what point in time, Mom, are you going to wake up and realize I know people, and people know me? So anyway, I missed out, but I was glad to be here. I'm glad you're back. Todd and I had a good time. You can only imagine some of the disclaimers. Even Todd was throwing the disclaimers up on the page.
That worries me more, actually.
I know.
That he felt like he needed to put it up. That means that something bad was coming out of his mouth.
When you get to the point, I don't know that he was hearing the Holy Spirit, but it was hearing the voice of Royce. The voice of Royce.
Good.
In his head.
Good.
Yeah.
Man. He's learning.
and so I've been tired. I've been getting up at 4 o'clock every morning, which I don't sleep much anyway, but I've got so much going on because I'm running this show. I'm running, the live tour schedule. We're out on the road all the time. Our merch business, our apparel business. Then I've got, doing the Dear America show. The inauguration day, we did 3 hours. It was crazy. We had 20,000 people watching it. I want to say thank you to the Dear America audience. I want to say thank you to my audience, the people that are in the chat, people that are watching the show right now. God bless you. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Just absolutely thrilled for you guys to be in here. And I want to show you what just showed up at my house. So you've seen Magic Mind. And this is the thing that's been getting me through in the mornings. This is the stuff that's the clean energy, right? This is the liquid gold right here. You drink this stuff all natural, no caffeine in it, but you're like, ooh, God, I feel good today. But look at this. Look what just showed up. It's the nighttime. So one's green and one's purple. This is the new flavor, the berry flavor, and they're selling these in a bundle. So you take this in the morning, as I've been doing on the show, and I'm going to take one here in a minute. I gave one to Party Foul Steve. He's sitting there at the control booth. And then the berry one. This has got the ashwagandha in it. Listen to all the stuff that's in this thing. It's got for relaxation, you got the ashwagandha, the passion flower, the L-theanine. That's going to lower your cortisol. All you stressful dudes out there with the belly fat, that's cortisol. You got the lavender, the lemon balm. It sounds very frou-frou, but I like it. But this stuff helps you fall asleep. It gives you the kava and the GABA and the magnesium. And by the way, there's no melatonin in this. There's no grogginess. There's no melatonin. Some people have issues with that stuff. But this is all natural, so I want you guys to get it. You can get it. There's the promo code right there. Actually, go to magicmind.com/ChadJan. Throw that. That's the deal you need to go if you want to get the bundle deal. Go to magicmind.com/ChadJan for January. Chad, Jan at the end. And then there it is, Chad Jan. And then you can use promo code Prather and save, but that'll give you the bundle. You can get you can save like 50% on the morning and the evening. Here it is. Bottoms up, everybody. Here's cheers. Magic Mind. Go get it. All right. I love that stuff. Got to get some shipped over to you. But you got that young mind. You got that young mind.
I do. I got that young mind, but it can always be sharper.
It can always be good. But I am... I'm excited, dude. I'm excited about, as you said, the new, just the new everything that's going on.
The golden age, man.
It's the golden age. there's a lot of people that are losing their freaking minds because they're like, oh, we're moving into the one world order. We're moving into, or a new world order. We're moving into a one world government. Trump is deep state. It's the cabal. He's been placed by everything from the Jews and the Zionists to the Martians. He's giving Elon Musk carte blanche ability to put, chips in our head and monitor every move we make with Skylink and blah, 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 blah. Okay, stop. First of all, I've already managed to stay unvaccinated. I managed to fight through all the deal. You're not putting a chip in my brain, okay? That's not going to happen. We're still going to use common sense. I've seen a lot of people out there who are saying, well, Trump is just y'all are worshiping him like a god. You're worshiping him. And I'm like, no, we're actually really, really not. To me, if anybody's followed me for any length of time, I'm a pretty strong individual, pretty outspoken, can be pretty crass, pretty blunt on things. But at the end of the day, you know where I stand. I know where my faith is. I believe that Jesus is Lord. He is King. He is sitting on the throne, and he is not susceptible to your vote or your impeachment or your assassination attempts or anything else. And so, no, there's only one God, and it ain't Donald Trump. Now, I'm going to support this guy because I believe Donald Trump lends to us, or at least allows us the opportunity to express our freedoms to the greatest ability in terms of the options that are out there. Now, promises made, promises kept. He has opened up the doors for the J6ers, granted the full pardon. I'm a big fan of that. There's still a few people that are not out yet. We're working through that. They're working through that. These things are happening at the speed of the pen at this stage in the game. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about some of the agendas. And again, everybody said, oh, you're going to be Project 2025. Obviously, we're not. That's not the goal. I've made a lot of jokes about that. Everything in Project 2025, in my opinion, wasn't bad. There were a lot of things in there that I wouldn't mind us getting back to some values-based and values-driven governmental policies. So, there's a lot of things out there. But you have these people, and we've talked about this bishop at the National Cathedral. Royce, I know you're a believer. I know that it shapes and molds your life and your vision for your life and your family.
Yes, sir.
And I know that Graham is. I know that I am. People like Todd and me, we can be a little bit stronger in terms of our humor or the way we put things. And I've been convicted in recent days about just making sure that, hey, I want to make sure this message doesn't get lost in my crazy ranting self. And so I've been a little more calm about this. I've been a little more calm because I want to get this message across to everybody that you are under attack. You have been for a long time. It's not anything that anybody is surprised about when I say that. But they're attacking your soul now. They've gone after your mind. They've gone after, potentially your body. We saw with these J6 hostages, if they could arrest them, they did. Put them in solitary confinement, many times without charge, without a trial. They've been keeping them there for 4 years now. And they went after your body. Even Hillary Clinton said, we're going to re-educate these people. They've gone after your mind. They've gone after your body. But now I think they're going after our soul. And I said on the show yesterday, they're going to continue to put like that lady who got to the border and the CBD, whatever, CPT app had been deleted. She couldn't get across, and so she's crying. So they're tugging on those heartstrings, and they want to make you feel sorry for these people. Well, I don't. I don't feel sorry for them. I'm angry that a Biden administration said that the border was open and encouraged these people to come. But now that you're here, you came under the wrong pretenses, and you got to go home. You can't just cross illegally anymore. So but they're playing on your heartstrings, and they're going to keep trotting these cases out there to say, oh, don't you feel sorry for this? And if you don't feel sorry for this, well, then you're dehumanizing people, and you're evil, and you're certainly not a Christian. Oh, just like a Christian, you're going to complain about people all week long on Instagram, and you're going to be pushing hate, and then on Sundays you're going to pray to Jesus again. I'm so sick of that garbage. Jesus wasn't the blue-eyed guy that you think he was, walking around with a halo around his head so that you thought that he was some kind of holy man. Jesus was as common as they come. There was nothing about him that said, hey, look at this guy, we're going to be drawn to him. It wasn't Brad Pitt in a robe. there wasn't some angels singing when he spoke. There was no harp music. Jesus was a dude that walked around Palestine and taught people and did some amazing things and miraculous things that people couldn't explain. But at the end of the day, he said, I didn't come to bring peace, but a sword. I didn't come to bring unity. I came to divide even families. He said, if you have a couple of tunics and you don't own a sword, sell one and go buy a sword. Whenever they were doing the money changing and the vending and all the garbage they were doing and cheating people in the temple, Jesus fashioned a whip out of cords, and he went in there, flipped the tables, and he spanked some people. He ran them out. He was a rough and tumble character, and he was a force to be reckoned with. They didn't crucify him because he was nice. They didn't crucify him because he was such a gentle lamb. No, they crucified him because he was a radical. They crucified him because he was wild-eyed in his messaging, and for them, it was blasphemy. And so they said, this guy is here to upset not only the political system of the day, but the established religious system of the day, both of which were leading people to death and destruction. And Jesus came to usher in a new kingdom, and they said, we don't know about this kingdom. And they were threatened by that, and they said, this guy's got to die. This guy's got to die. So now what we've done is we've relegated Jesus down to an American reinterpretation of some gentle guy who just sat on a hillside and told sweet stories and told everybody to love each other. And no matter what anybody does, they're supposed to just be forgiven and to each his own. And so he was some big socialist that everybody should learn from, especially us narrow-minded, white, heterosexual, Christian conservative bigots and misogynists. And God forbid if you drive a four-wheel drive truck, burn up the ozone layer, have a couple of dogs, and wear a cowboy hat. So this lady gets up in the cathedral. We've seen it over and over. We've laughed at it. My favorite still is Tiffany Trump, who's watching her dad, waiting to see his reaction. And this Marianne Buddha, I don't know how you say her name, but, you know, if her last name's Buddha, that ought to be a problem right there. And she gets up there, and J.D. Vance, I love J.D. Vance. I'm falling in love with that guy more and more. And I want, you know, every man in life just wants a woman that looks at their man like Usha looks at J.D. I mean, it's fun to watch this young family. JD's doing the eye rolling. Trump is just sitting there like, I can't believe we're going to do this now.
Melania's given the death stare.
Melania gives
staring.
zero Fs. I mean, Melania is just hammering these people with those darts from her eyes. It's so she gets up there, this bishop, and she's got her clerical robe on, and she uses this as an opportunity to push a political agenda. Now, these are the same people that have consistently said to folks like you and me, Royce, that we're supposed to have this separation of church and state. Mm-hmm. Well, she rushes in and says, okay, there are libertarian, Democrat, and Republican families that have LGBT and trans children. We want you to not be cruel. We want you to be gentle with them. We want you to have mercy and compassion. There's no evidence that Donald Trump has shown anything but mercy and compassion to anybody. I've seen no evidence. Donald, again, regardless of what you say has been done, supposedly, I don't see any. Nobody's been singled out in terms of saying, okay, you don't exist as a person. Nobody's been treated cruelly in regards to that. And then she says, and then, of course, there are these folks who are here. They may not have the right documentation. So not going to call them illegal. They just don't have the right kind of documentation. They've come from another country. And who's going to pick our crops? Who's going to wash our dishes? Who's going to clean up after we're gone? Which to me is some of the most racist rhetoric that you could ever put out there for anything. I mean, that's just pure insanity. That's the way you're going to go with that. And so my response is, throw it up there. I think you've got it. Jeremiah 23:16. This is my response, because people are like, well, she's a woman of the cloth. She's a person of the cloth. Jeremiah 23:16, this was a very similar situation Jeremiah was dealing with the people of Israel. Scroll it down just a little bit so we can begin at the very top of it there. If you can reach that thing, go down. He says, this is what the Lord Almighty says. Do not listen to the prophets, to what the prophets are prophesying to you. They fill you with false hopes. They speak visions from their own minds, not from the mouths of the Lord. That phrase right there is a perfect example of what this bishop did from this Episcopalian church. All right. It says they speak visions from their own minds, not from the mouth of the Lord. Scroll up. It says they keep saying to those who despise me, the Lord says, you will have peace. And unto all who follow the stubbornness of their hearts, they say, no harm will come to you. But which of them has stood in the counsel of the Lord to see or hear his word? What Jeremiah was saying to the people of Israel is he says, listen, these people set themselves up as teachers and prophets, but they're not. They're talking about the visions of their own heart, the things that they've come up with in their own mind. And they say to people who otherwise hate me, hate God, that you're okay. Everything's going to be safe. You don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to make any changes to your life. You don't have to make any concessions to what God demands of you. And you could just live however you want to live, and peace will come to you, and there'll be no harm. So let's go over to X here. Katie Couric. Everybody remembers Katie Couric. The responses to this woman's little message is amazing to me. Katie Couric says, please take a moment and listen to Bishop Marion Edgar Booty's powerful words. I don't think those are real powerful words. And then there was the next one. Pop it up there. She said, Karen Piper. Now, Karen Piper, if that name is familiar to you, this is a woman who the other day, talking about the people in Western North Carolina that voted for Trump, said karma is a bitch on X. This is that same person who was wishing karma or consequences on Trump voters, who said a pastor gave a sermon about kindness and now she's getting death threats. This is what I mean about things getting bad quickly. Now, forget about the fact that this bishop, and again, I'm always throwing that in the parentheses, that this bishop did not mention any of the nuances of what illegal immigration policies bring forth in terms of the dangers to your children. Now, the young Nungare girl down in Houston was tortured and raped for 2 hours before she was strangled and murdered. Laken Riley was out for a jog on the campus of the University of Georgia, a nursing student, 22 years old, and she gets beaten to death by a Venezuelan guy that was transported all around the country at the taxpayer dime and the president's behest. Went wherever the wind blew, and he wound up there and ended up murdering people. Just 2 days ago, we had a German illegal who was here that killed a Border Patrol agent in an altercation in Vermont. All of these things that we can list off. How many times? All of the issues that we've had. This bishop had no qualms whatsoever about forgetting the fact that the nuances that these policies have brought in, the hundreds of thousands of fentanyl deaths, the human trafficking, the cartels, the coyotes, the billions of dollars that have exchanged hands for the illegal prostitution, sale of children and women. She doesn't bring any of that in. So where's the compassion? Where's that in her powerful message? Where is she going to mention these people who have been victimized by the system? She's not going to do that. When is she going to talk about the people like the girls who play volleyball or do gymnastics or run track or get in a boxing ring or do MMA or swim collegiately, competitively, when they have men who are parading around as females are going to get in and beat the ever-living snot out of them or take away their rewards or take away their scholarships or take away their opportunity? When is she going to talk about the children who aren't trans, who have to go into a bathroom under threat? A perfect example was the situation of rape that happened in Virginia a couple of years ago. When are they going to talk about these issues and the exposure of your children to these ideologies that have literally stripped them not only of their own identity, but their security and even their safety. So to get up there and say, we want you to have compassion and mercy, I want you to have common sense. No, I'm not saying go out there and be mean to a kid because they have identity issues when it comes to their gender. But let's face it, we've watched these, quote, gender issues go through the roof. Johns Hopkins University used to call this a gender dysphoria was a mental illness. They've since changed the definition under political pressure to do so. So we've watched it do this right here because just like you had emo and goth and punk and all these other different things, you've had these phases where people go, I just don't feel like I'm comfortable in my own skin, so I'm going to do something else. And now boys are going to paint their nails and try on pantyhose, and you got these ideologically driven parents who are going to go, oh, I think my 9-year-old wants to be called Mary now. And so we're supposed to bow down and kowtow to all that kind of stuff. And if you don't do it, if you don't buy into the insanity, then just like I'm doing right now, I'm going to be accused of hate and fostering violence. No, I don't think that I love everybody. I love everybody. Even if you got a mental issue, dude, I love everybody. But you need help. If somebody's hearing voices and they're schizophrenia and there's some kind of multiple personality and they're split down the middle in their psyche, I think that person needs compassionate help, not compassionate approval, because to me, they're driving towards destruction, and that compassion is only going to get them closer to it faster. Oh, Royce. I got more I can say, but I'm taking a breath.
You got it, man. No,
But I'm just saying, this coddling of insanity irritates me bad enough. But when you're going to throw the cloth behind it, the ordinations and the try to say it's the Word of God and say that this is a powerful message that promotes Jesus, it's not. It's not. And I say that unapologetically. And I'll have a theological debate with anybody that wants to have one. It's not. So if I were to stand in that cathedral and read Romans 1, in fact, let's read a little bit of Romans 1. Let's look what I just happen to have here with me over there under my wellness kit. If I read a little bit of Romans 1, this is dadgum. This is kind of offensive stuff right here, but I'm going to do it. And some of you people might be saying, "Oh, I didn't come in here for a Bible study." Suck it up, Buttercup. He says, "The wrath of God," verse 18. "is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. Because that which is known about God is evident within them, for God made it evident to them. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made, for they are without excuse." In other words, God says, all you got to do is look at creation to see the pattern of how I made things. Go to Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2. God created them male and female, and female created he them. All right? For even though they knew God, boy, this sums her up. Even though they knew God, and I don't think she does know God, they did not honor him or give him thanks, but they became futile, confused in their speculations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the incorruptible God for the image in the form of a corruptible man and the birds and the four-footed animals and crawling creatures. So they engaged in idolatry. Therefore, God gave them over to the lusts of their hearts to impurity, so that their bodies would be dishonored among them. For they exchanged the truth of God for a lie, worshiped and served the creature rather than the creator. Hello, cultist and the climate change, environmental nonsense. He says, for this reason, verse 26, God gave them over to degrading passions. For their women exchanged the natural function for that which is unnatural. In the same way, also the men abandoned their natural function of the woman and burned in their desire towards one another. Men with men committing indecent acts and receiving in their own persons the due penalty of their error. And just as they did not see fit to acknowledge God any longer, God gave them over to a depraved mind to do those things which are not proper, being filled with all unrighteousness, wickedness, greed, evil, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice. They're gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, arrogant, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, without understanding, untrustworthy, unloving, unmerciful. And although they know the ordinance of God, that those who practice the things are worthy of death, they not only do the same, but they give hearty approval to those who practice them. I love the way the Apostle Paul says, hey, just in case you think I'm picking on dudes that sleep with other dudes, I'm going to list everything else off too and remind you that none of you are, like, you've exchanged all of these things, obedience for disobedience, because at the end of the day, he says, you exchanged the true image of God for something you created or saw in the earth that was created. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't have a true image of God, you're going to lead people astray. This is millstone worthy here. I mean, like, this is some Matthew. Jesus said, if you lead one of my little ones astray, better for you that you have a millstone hung around your neck and you're tossed into the depths of the sea. I'm just saying, this is the kind of deal where you say, man, Chad, that's mean. No. It's compassionate. If I let you burn in something that is going to lead you to destruction, or practice something that's going to hurt you. I mean, go out there and grab a rattlesnake, man. Do you let your kids just go out there and play with the rattlesnakes? No, you don't. Now, is it unloving to get them away from it? But it's fun. It's fun. I mean, it's cool. It probably won't hurt them, right? Well, why are you going to take that chance? Why are you going to take that chance? This is the type of logic that we use with this kind of stuff. So, you know, with the Katie Courics of the world, or the Karen Pipers, or these people who, you know, if I were to read that to them, they'd lose their freaking mind, Royce. Mm-hmm. They would lose their minds. If I tell them that the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life through Christ Jesus our Lord, they're going to lose their minds. If I'm going to tell them that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, they're going to lose their mind. If I tell them, go on and read in the book of Romans, read Romans 9, 10, 11, 12, that God created some vessels for honor and some vessels for dishonor, they're going to lose their minds on that. Because let me just tell you, without grace, without God calling us, we're all lost. We are all lost. And so I just say, don't call it church. Don't call it church. I mean, anybody wants to have that theological discussion with me, we can have it. Sounds boring, but we can have it. So there you go. There you go. Royce, any thoughts before we change topics here?
I feel like it's hard for me to say anything to that because I got it. You pretty much got that buttoned up and taken care of. But all I can say is, you know, I wholeheartedly agree. I think someone like her going up to the pulpit and saying what she says and preaching what she preaches. And talking about things in that way is completely wrong, and it's not something that our kids should be taught, that should be taught at the pulpit, and I think God is looking down, frowning at that, because that is not what Jesus did in the Bible. That is not what he preached. That is not what he talked about. Jesus flipped tables. You know, I think Jesus would be proud of us for closing the border and getting the people out who are hurting the American people, and that goes for any country, any person. We've talked about it before. If people are coming into your life and hurting you, you've got to kick them out. In the same way that if there is something in your life, whether it be a drug addiction, alcohol addiction, you've got to rid of it because it is hurting you. And that's biblical. It's the same sense. And if she's up here preaching about we've got to protect these people who are coming into our country and raping our daughters and robbing our stores and stealing our houses and burning down our cities, then she is blatantly wrong. Blatantly wrong. And you said it all the best, but that's what I have.
Well, and I see people who are in the comments who are saying, well, keep reading in Romans chapter 2 where it says don't judge. I'm not judging. I'm judging her. I'm not judging the people she's talking about. That's my point in Romans chapter 1 where Paul says, listen, you exchanged all these natural things for the unnatural things, and you bought into all these unnatural lusts. The issue, that's why Paul says, listen, even you're disobedient to parents. I mean, all these things, he said, you're all guilty. You're all guilty. That's why he goes on in chapter 2 and says, listen, God's going to judge the unrighteousness. It's not your place to judge. But you go over and read in the book of 1 Corinthians where Paul says, listen, if we're going to judge angels, how much more shall we judge the church? We're supposed to judge those who are the ones who are in a place of so-called spiritual authority. And if they're peddling lies, then we need to call them lies. That's not judging the people they're talking about. You know, there are people who walk with all kind of crazy stuff in their life. There are parents out there who deal with children that have all kind of issues going on. I'm not going to sit in judgment over that child. That's between that parent and God. But when you got a clergy member, a so-called clergy member, who gets up there and excuses sinful things, excuses things, and says that the order of God is something that it's not entirely, then I have a right to say, no, that's not the truth. That is not the truth. And again, should we have compassion on everyone? I think we should. I'm not asking anybody to go out there and show anything but mercy, but you still have to show mercy within the confines of truth. Because if you have a lake without borders, man, that's a swamp. It's 3 miles wide and 2 inches deep. And the only thing that's going to grow there is just gnats and mosquitoes and fungus and growths, and it's going to stagnate. It's going to create parasites and vermin. So you got to have the borders of truth, or that river is going to spread out. You just can't have a river without banks. And so these people are saying, don't judge. I appreciate what you're saying, but I am fully within my biblical right to express judgment on what she said. The Bible says discern the spirits. It says you need to be aware that the devil himself parades like an angel of light. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. John 10:10. If I'm sitting out there and I'm the shepherd, that's why he says you look to the good shepherd, because the shepherd knows how to spot that wolf amongst the flock. And so whenever you see that wolf, and you don't believe me, guys? You don't believe me, guys? You don't believe me? Here's the deal. You don't believe me? This woman, this Marianne Boudet, whatever her name is, she did it so she could be talked about. The only thing she did was build her own vanity. You don't believe me? Guess where she was today? On The View. On The View. So I want you to see what she had to say. Now, I got plenty that I could point out about this woman, but what she's saying in the name of Christianity is false. So now here she is on The View. Now, I don't know if you guys get your theological opinions or your direction to Jesus and the truth from The View, but if you do, you might want to reel that in and try another angle. So play this clip.
They could, and leave, as they say, leave the rest to God.
Bishop, predictably, you seem to strike a nerve. President Trump initially said yesterday it was, quote, not a good service, unquote. But overnight, he took to social media to say you were a, quote, radical left hardline Trump hater, unquote, that you brought the church into politics and that you owe your church and the public an apology. Now, given your role, it doesn't seem surprising that you would speak out for the marginalized, as anyone who's read the Bible and knows the path of Jesus. But do you think your message is being misconstrued and politicized?
Well, sure. Yeah. But I think if you read what I said, and I mean, how could it not be politicized, right? We're in a hyper political climate. One of the things I caution about is the culture of contempt in which we live that immediately rushes to the worst possible interpretations of what people are saying and to put them in categories such as the ones you've just described. That's part of the air we breathe now. And I was trying to speak a truth that I felt needed to be said, but to do it in as respectful and kind a way as I could. And also to bring other voices into the conversation, which voices that had not been heard in the public space for some time.
No, what you did, what you did is use an opportunity to push an agenda, because you didn't. If you wanted to say, listen, President Trump, you are now the president of everyone in the United States, whether they chose you or not, whether they voted for you or not. There are people who are marginalized. There are people who are forgotten. there are people who have been victimized. I'm asking you to remember them. Remember those that are the lowliest and least among us. But she didn't do that. She didn't ask for sheer grace and mercy. She specifically talked about people that she perceives as marginalized, where they've created a statistical victimhood, and said, these are the people I want you to pay attention to. Now, I've got a pretty solid feeling that this woman has never housed an illegal alien. I really don't think that this one, and again, who am I to judge on what her motives are? Well, I could tell you what she's shown us. Pull the clip up where she was out there with her mask on her face, Royce, and she's out there touting some guy by the name of George Floyd. Play the clip.
Why did you want to come out here and send
their message? It is a message of a call for justice, for swift justice for George Floyd, for systemic justice for all brown and black people who have been under the knee of this country in ways that we have witnessed time and again. This is wrong. And this rising up, this spontaneous uprising of people, mostly half my age or younger, they're the ones we should be listening to.
And they're angry at the president.
They're so angry.
They're angry at the president. So what is your message to President Trump today?
Well, I've given up speaking to President Trump. We need to replace President Trump. We need leadership that will lead us in the ways that this country deserves.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, well, I guess my judgment was correct. Funny how that happens, right? That my judgment tend to be correct. Her whole deal was, I got nothing. I've given up at this point. I don't want to say anything to President Trump. Well, what was the deal? Why are you lying? Because there you were on The View telling us that you were wanting to say something that was nuanced that has not been said to the president in a long time. So apparently you had a lot of things that you wanted to say to President Trump. He needed to be replaced. Why? Over a overdose, fentanyl taking, counterfeiting, gun pointing to a pregnant woman's belly, George Floyd, who had 6 funerals while you were locked down in COVID restrictions and had to wave goodbye to your grandma through plexiglass while she died alone in a nursing home, and you hugged your family through saran wrap on Good Morning America and pulled your kids out of school and had to put masks on everybody's face, and you had to quarantine, stay at home, and couldn't go out to dinner, have Thanksgiving or Christmas, and we'd celebrate with your family, and if you did, you better not sing any hymns out loud while Gavin Newsom was eating, $700 plate meals at French Laundry in San Francisco. These people who put George Floyd in a gold casket and went all over the country celebrating this guy who was a piece of garbage, and you're going to sit out there and say this is about he was a criminal, and you're going to sit there and say, oh, it's this country's put the knee on brown people and black people for no. Actually, the United States of America, our constitutional freedoms and our rights, and the white people who have fought for the browns and the black people in this country have actually given more opportunity to minorities in this country than any other nation in the history of the world. I'm telling you, when you got Fortune 500 companies and 75% of those have a chief diversity officer as an executive level, C-level position, that tells me that most of America is actually concerned with making sure that everybody not only gets their equal rights, but gets their free opportunity, their equal opportunity. But what people like this do is say, we want them to get equality of results. I'm sorry, that is not a biblical principle. You reap what you sow. You don't get equality of results in this country. You just don't. So here we are with people like this who are putting Jesus and a cross and a clerical collar around their neck and saying this is the truth when it ain't the truth. It ain't the truth. And that's all I'm here to say. And these people who have become and so folks, I'll just say this. Here's the warning I want to issue you. Here's the warning. Ain't no telling what Steve's reading over there. I want you guys to know that you're going to see this stuff over and over and over again. And this is what the media is going to run with. This is what the television networks are going to run with. This is what the social media, all of the highlights on X, you're going to have these people who try to one-up each other and say, you know what, I can out-radicalize you by saying this and this and this to Trump. And that's why Trump's response was delicious in the middle of the night when he says, it was kind of a boring service.
Saying she wasn't smart.
It was not smart. It's not
But
smart.
anybody that praises criminals and roots for the freedom of criminals to be free in our country or to have justice for the crimes that they committed, I don't think you're smart either. I think President Trump was spot on for that.
I agree. And I will say this. There's no merit in the melatonin of your skin. Again, this type of ideology, there's no merit in that. The DEI stuff, I'm glad that as of today at 5 o'clock, the DEI offices and all federal offices are going to be shut down. Why? Because there's no merit in that. It literally is 0.0000001% of your DNA. I mean, 0.00001% of your DNA. I mean, it's such a minute part of who you are, and yet they've made that everything. We have freedom of opportunity in this country. I went to breakfast this morning. I tried to pay for it with my white privilege. They said, no, we take Visa. So here we are. These people are going to get out there. They're going to protest. And so, again, she didn't have compassion in that little clip she showed right there. She didn't show compassion in what she had to say about. And by the way, whenever they ask her that question, you notice that long pause that she gave there on The View. She wasn't ready in season or out of season to give a reason for the faith and what she could defend. That's a biblical principle. The Apostle Paul says, be ready in season, out of season. That whenever somebody asks you a reason for your faith, that you are ready and able to give that defense with all hope. That's not a hopeful message. That's a condemning message. It's a judgmental message. And again, she's shown no compassion towards the people who are she'll excuse a George Floyd, but I bet you she has said nil about the truth of the matter when it comes to the justice system and J6 hostages in this country. Mm-hmm. She said nothing. She showed no compassion or mercy there. No compassion because Grandma walked through the Capitol building with a selfie stick. She showed no compassion there. The people who have been harassed by the Department of Justice for the last 4 years, not to mention imprisoned, but the people who have been living with that heaviness over that shadow over their lives constantly, she didn't show any compassion there.
She's clearly not living a centric, biblical, preacher-driven life. She's clearly, she's wrapped around the finger of the Democrats because everything that I've heard her talk about and say is the liberal movement, not biblical. Not what the Bible teaches or what should be taught in church, but what the Democratic Party wants you to know and brainwash you with. That's all that she's saying here.
Yeah. Well, we've beat that horse half to death, Royce, but I tell you, and she's a lesbian. So what are you going to do? I mean, she's a bitter liberal lesbian that is, going to keep pushing that agenda. Going to keep pushing that whole deal. Mm-hmm. And again, her sexuality shouldn't. Well, I mean, there's huge argument about whether or not she should be in a pulpit anyway because she's a woman. I mean, there's a biblical argument to be made both for and against that. Don't want to get into it. I'm not going to tell you what I believe on that whole deal because I don't want to have that debate right now. I'm happy to have it, but just not right now. And then the other thing is she definitely, with her sexual orientation, certainly has disqualified from any form of, quote, biblical ministry. Now, she can go out there and she can run some kind of nonprofit, which is some kind of, soup kitchen or whatever it is you want to call it, where you're feeding and housing and clothing. But don't call it the church, man. Don't call that the body of Christ. Don't call that the blameless bride of Christ that will enjoy the marriage supper of the Lamb for all of eternity. Don't tell me that Jesus died. You go read the book of Hebrews chapter 6 and then again in chapter 10 where it says, if you trample underfoot the blood of the covenant, that precious blood of the cross, which was shed for the remission of your sins, there awaits for you no other recompense for sin. So if you're sitting there trampling underfoot this sacred thing, which is the shed blood of Jesus, and you're going to tell us that, oh, you know what, we're just going to make up for it with good deeds and making sure everybody is compassionate and tolerant, and we're going to give people soup and a blanket. No, that doesn't make up for what you've done. You've trampled underfoot the blood of the covenant. And we don't understand anything about covenants. God cut a covenant with you in the sacrifice of Jesus on the cross, and you start trampling that underfoot and you start making a mockery out of that. Galatians chapter 6 says, be not deceived. You're not going to thumb your nose at God. Be not deceived. God is not mocked because he will make an example out of you. You will reap what you've sown. There will be consequences if you keep, turning a blind eye to God's truth or spreading, falsehoods. That's why the book of James, I keep doing this. The book of James says, do not let all of you presume to be teachers, because teachers are going to suffer a heftier judgment. They're going to give a greater account. Teachers are going to be the ones that God's going to hold accountable at a bigger, higher standard, because they're the ones who had the potential to lead people astray with their false teaching. So he said, don't all of you assume to be teachers. That's a heavy mantle. You don't want to just say, hey, I'm just going to be a teacher of this, because if you start saying the wrong thing, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. So I can keep doing this all day long about false teachers. I mean, there's a reason why Paul says to Timothy, he says about the qualifications for being a pastor. He says, even if your children are unruly in your own household, if you can't rule over your own household, you can't rule over the house of God. So God's pretty serious about this stuff. He's pretty serious. That's why he says that teachers in the church are worthy of double honor. He says, why would you muzzle the oxen that treads out the grain? In other words, you need to take care of those people because they're worthy of a higher honor, double honor, because they carry a mantle. Why do you think that it says in the Old Testament, in the prophet Samuel says, touch not my anointed? Because even David, when the King Saul was in sin, David had an opportunity to kill Saul and take his throne, and he said, nope, I will not touch God's anointed. God put his hand on that man, and I'm not going to touch him. So you got to be careful with this kind of stuff. You throw on a robe and you throw on, that thing we showed on Dear America this morning, where she's wearing the deal. She looks like the marriage. Whoa, marriage. That deal, she's got her robes and her staff and her big hat on and all this kind of stuff. That doesn't set you apart, man. It's the blood of the covenant. You got to be careful how you treat that. All right. I've preached enough. We won't always do this, but anyway. If you got mad, well, get happy. Get glad. Let the loose end drag, baby. Go bite a fat hog in the nose. That's what I say. How about that? Before we get out of here, we got a couple other things we want to do. I want to remind you about our friends over at Birch Gold. Now that I have your attention, you know what? There's another thing that's secure out there as long as you're on this earth, and that is precious metals, particularly gold and silver. I want to make sure, along with our friends at Birch Gold, that you are solidifying and securing your retirement accounts backed up by real gold. That is the standard for your retirement. Text CHAD, C-H-A-D. I spell it Chad. Text it to the number 989898. What you're going to get for that? You're going to get a free information kit. They're going to tell you how to diversify into those precious metals. If you got that IRA or that retirement account from an old company or an old job or something that's sitting there, it's not doing anything, let Birch Gold take it and do something with it, okay? Text CHAD to 989898. Do it for me, please, so Birch Gold will be like, see, it's worthwhile partnering with Chad's show, even though he preaches and pisses people off. At least we get a little attention over here. Text CHAD to 989898 and get yourself taken care of. Boy. Anyway, Royce, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're back, man. Welcome back.
I'm glad to be back too, man. Despite, I didn't get to talk too much this episode, but that's okay because you said everything better than I could.
Man, I got fired up. I just got fired up.
I get it. This stuff, things that affect, how our kids are going to be taught and what's going out there and what they're trying to push as the American standard. They want this stuff to be like normal. They want to normalize being trans and all these different things and the open borders and talking this way in church and blasphemy. They want to normalize it. And it's enraging to think about it when you know that's not the case. And
Trump said, look, okay, we're going to go back to two genders, right? Male and female. And people say, well, that's sexist. That's not gender. Gender is a spectrum. Stop it. If I'm filling out a federal form online and it says, gender, and I hit a deal and a thing scrolls down and I got 19 choices, and then I wish not to say or other, could we stop?
Oh my God. Could we stop?
You were born a dude or a girl. It just stop. XY, XX. Those are your chromosomes. That's what you got. At least when it comes to federal stuff and all these governmental deals, can we stop with all of this? I'm just tired of it. These people are losing their minds over this stuff, And again, we are playing pussyfoot with statistical non-entities that have grown because of the agendas and the narratives that have been pushed on people, foisted and fostered and grown and pandered and pushed. And all of this stuff now, they're trying to normalize. And I'm just like, people are like, well, what is normal? Well, there is no normal, but I can tell you this. I believe in God, and I do believe in this scripture, and I do believe that God has a future for people, and I also believe we have a future because of where he brought us from. And when we look at where we came from and how he created us in his image, God didn't put a whole I'd rather not to say choice in the Bible.
They're making it so complex for no reason. God made it simple on purpose. Because we as humans, we're not very smart. We didn't create the universe. We didn't do all this stuff. But the guidelines that we were given are quite simple. Where there is man and there is woman. Okay? And the Bible describes exactly what our purposes are as man and woman. Yeah. And we shouldn't take that and run with it and change it and think we can snip, snap, and flip back and forth. And it's unbelievable. And it does. It makes you mad and it makes you want to rant for an hour.
Yeah, and I did. I'm going to get out of here. We won't be preaching and when we do the live shows. I don't preach. We actually do comedy and we do music, and it's a good time. So if you've never been to one of my shows, don't come to one of my shows thinking you're coming to a church service. You're not. We're all about the laughs. Cap City Comedy Club next Thursday. That's the 30th of January. That's in Austin, Texas. And then on the 31st, we'll be in Waco back at the Hippodrome Theater, beautiful theater. And then doing a little music in Granbury, Texas, south of Fort Worth on February 1st. And lots of more stuff coming up. Go to watchchad.com. A number of people asked me on Inauguration Day about that jersey. I think we've got a couple of Trump jerseys left. You can get all my stuff over at prathertees.com. Please like, please share, please subscribe to my channel on Rumble. You can go over there and subscribe to my channel on YouTube. I'm not going to say, but my ranking in news commentary category is a little bit higher than Graham's show right now. So if you want to go to where podcasts are offered, like Apple or Spotify, you can leave a rating and a review, and it helps. So we appreciate that. Do it for Graham as well, and do it for my buddy Todd for his hot seat show. And just do it. Just share the love. You guys, I love our audience, man. Our people are so good. I love the discussion. Love the debates.
Let's do those chats really quick.
Super chats, baby. DQ Ball. Jack Hibbs said it right. Steve, did Jack Hibbs say it right? Yes. He said it right.
Yes.
He said it right.
And then this last one.
Yeah, well, Graham always has like thousands of dollars in super chats, and I need to get some more super chats.
You got to talk about it more, man.
I know. I don't do it.
Here's the last one though.
What do we got? Let's see if I can see it. Chad, spot on. I know there needs to be ordered during service, but would it be wrong to call it blasphemy when she said all that on the pulpit? Here's my opinion on that. I will, and by the way, go. You can follow Real Life with Jack Hibbs on YouTube if you want to follow what all Jack Hibbs had to say. She's not like if I were sitting in a church, then I'm placing myself under someone's authority. God does operate in terms of authority, right? And so God gives spiritual authority to certain people. I go into a church, let's say I join a local assembly. I'm placing myself under spiritual authority. They were there. It was ceremonial because they always do that at the National Cathedral. I would say that woman's not carrying any authority to the people she was speaking to. She was just pushing an agenda. So in regards to that, I think the way Trump and Vance and the family handled it, I agree with Megyn Kelly. They just handled it with class. And they just said, yep, okay, this is your place. We walked into your place. It's like if I walk into Party Foul Steve's house and I don't go in there straightening the pictures on the wall. This is his place. I can leave. I mean, Steve does it at my house, but I'm probably not going to go in there and, start cleaning his toilets. So, yeah, I mean, could you do it and be well within your rights? Yeah, but what's the point? What's the point? That's why Jesus said, if you're not treated right when you go into someone's home and they turn you away because of what you believe and who you are, you walk away and just kick the dust off your feet. And just for, just any residue of having been there, just walk away from it. That's why I like what my friend Chip Roy And Chip Roy, yes, he's had some disagreements with Trump, but he is my friend, congressman from Texas. I tell you this about Chip. When I text him, he texts right back. Good dude. And he said, time to find another place for that type of ceremony. So I couldn't agree more. All right, Royce, I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for get some rest. Try to get some rest. I know it's impossible. Welcome back.
There's always too much going on, man.
I know, man. If people only knew how much we had going on, I mean, trying to sort things out it's been a wild little ride for this week. And anyway.
Couple more super chats really quick. If you want to
do them.
There you go. I can listen to you and Todd speak the Lord's word all day, sir. Do not ever feel bad about speaking the Lord's word. You speak to the soul. Now get to upstate New York so I can see your show. LOL.
All right. Sound like a good plan to me, Striker J. Get up there and freeze with you. And you're not in Buffalo. Hopefully Striker J's middle finger heals up. It's in a splint and it's straight out. So broke it, tore the tendon. And I appreciate you, Striker J. We will get up there if nobody else, just for you. Just for you, Chad. She needs to get out of there, though. Yep. Just I agree, Tarzan Cowboy. I agree. I like that name, Tarzan Cowboy. All right, Royce, we're going to get out of here. Guys, without further ado, we love you. God bless you. Tomorrow morning, we'll be back on Dear America. Check us out, 9, 8 Central, and then I'll be back over here thinking about something else tomorrow. We love you. God bless you. For Royce, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.